Greetings from Scouse Farm. I'm here in what you'll see shortly why I'm here. This is St Michael's Hamlet in Aigburth, and what I'm going to show you is an actual Grade 1 listed church. But before we do, I'd just like to see some of these gorgeous old buildings as we walk down. And apologies for the noise, but there's just an absolute ridiculous amount of building work going on here. And I've just walked around the church you're about to see, and there's a house getting renovated over the road, and there's just wagons and trucks pulling up all the time, so there's never going to be a good time to film it, so let's just get on and do it. And that in the background is why we are here. And why is it special? Well, it's special for a number of reasons. Number one, it is a Grade 1 listed church, so there are very few Grade 1 listed buildings outside of major town centres, and this is one of them. And just for those who are overseas or aren't quite sure, in the UK we have a listings system whereby certain buildings and structures have protected status, so they can't be knocked down or altered in any major way. And Grade 1 is the highest of those listings, and the Grade 1 listing accounts for about 2.5% of all listed buildings. The next one down is a Grade 2 star, and Grade 2 star accounts for about 5.8% of all listed buildings. And then finally we have Grade 2, which is the lowest classification of listing, and that accounts for the remaining 91.7% of listed buildings. And also, this is one of 3 churches in Liverpool built by John Cragg using cast iron. So a lot of what you're about to see, you think from afar it's stone, but it isn't, it's cast iron. And as I say, it's one of 3 churches built by John Cragg using cast iron from the Mersey foundry that he owned, which was down Tybarn Street, I believe. And the first one that he ever built was St George's in Everton, and another one was St Philip's in Harbin Street, but that one was demolished, so it's no longer there to see, but the one in Everton is still there. And the cast iron used is from what's known locally as the Kazi, and the Kazi is the cast iron shore that stretches from Dingle right down towards Otterspool and beyond, and it's named cast iron shore because there were so many cast iron shipbuilders and foundries located along this stretch of the River Mersey back in the day. Not very much of it goes on today, but it was massive for shipbuilding and ironworks. And you can see if you look at the sand, some of the sand around the Mersey in that area is like red, so it's got a reddish tint, and that's from the ferric oxide still in the sand, so the iron oxide. Let's get a closer look at this beautiful church then. So this church, it was built around they started building it around 1813, and it was completed in 1815, and it was built as an overspill church because so many people were moving into the Toxteth Park area that the churches there weren't able to accommodate all the new parishioners. So this was proposed to be built, and an Act of Parliament in 1815 granted permission for it to be built, and it was opened on the 21st of June 1815 by the Bishop of Chester, George Henry Law. And as I said before, the church itself is Grade 1 listed, but this fence, so you see the gates here and the fence, this fence in and of itself, and the one a bit further down, as I say, excuse the building noise, but that fence itself is Grade 2 listed, so the fence and the gates are protected as well. And it was designed, although John Cragg, built the church, or at least paid for the church, the architect that designed it was Thomas Rickman, and apparently the word on the street is they both had a very strained relationship. So I don't think Thomas Rickman was quite pleased with the use of cast iron in building churches or something, I'm not sure. But they weren't best of friends anyway, that's for sure. But it is a fantastic church, and I'm going to give you a little close-up in a minute. But it might have something to do with the cast iron, but by 1860 the church was deteriorating so much that they had to raise funds to get it restored. So certain parts on the inside of the structure were struggling, and going into dilapidation. And it was Colonel Thomas Wilson, who was a church warden, who raised the money to start restoring the building back then. And in July 1898, St Michael's, so that this area where I'm standing now, St Michael's become a parish in its own right. So it's sort of split off from its umbrella of the Toxteth Park area, and it become its own parish because obviously more people were moving into the area, and the church itself then needed to be extended. So I think some of this is like additional widening that's happened later on in its life. Oh, just let some doggies past. Hello, mate. The perils of filming in public. Dogs start sniffing your unmentionables. And just a little bit more before I walk around the outside, get all the history out the way first. Then in 1902, an organ inside needed to be moved. So it was moved from one place to the next. And in 1915, there was a fund raised, which was going to be a centenary fund to celebrate 100 years of the life of the church. But obviously in 1915, the Great War was underway. So the Great War of 1914 to 1918. And because some of the parishioners had fallen during the conflict, they decided to use that fund to build or put up a memorial window and put the clock. So they put the clocks on. The fund was used to put the clocks on back then, and also some sort of commemorations inside the stained glass window and things. And one of the stained glass windows, the one for the memorial, is by H. Gustav Hiller, and there's another famous piece of glass in the east window, which is by Shrigley and Hunt in a Gothic revival style, and that was added a year later in 1916. Right, so there's the history done. Hopefully no more dogs come up to me. And it's obviously it's got covers on it, so you can't see very well from the outside, but that might be one of the windows in question. And let's have a little look at this plaque. So the clock in the tower of this church and the window and tablets in the porch are the gift of the parishioners of St Michael's in memory of the 148 men of the parish who fell in the Great War 1914-1919. So the official end date was 1918, but certain skirmishes continued afterwards in other places, so that's why it probably says 1919. But if you look at it's very Gothic with the top of these cast iron listed. Let's have a little knock. Solid fence posts, and you can see the problem with cast iron in some places. As soon as it's got a little bit of damage to the covering, it can start rotting away and rusting off, which if it's used in structures and that happens, then it's obviously a problem. But from afar, when you look, if you can see the top, we've got the parapets with the little arches in the parapet, that and the pinnacles are all cast iron. So that's not stone, that's cast iron, and obviously painted in whatever colour they decided looked like stone at the time. And at the top, that is absolutely fantastic. So the parapet at the top with the battlements, you can see all of this is cast iron all the way around the church. So there's a lot in the window reveals as well, or the coverings on the windows. I think that's cast iron also. And to be grade 1 listed is quite a privilege, because as I said before, there's so few grade 1 listed structures in the UK and in outside of major cities. Got a plane and some creatures trying to escape. They're sick of the noise as well. They're off to Portugal for the winter villa. So let's have a little walk around. It's nice that they've kept an old style lamp outside the front as well. But the brickwork, it all looks great from afar, but when you get close you can see there's a little bit of maintenance required, I'd say. And again, this fence and the gate entry to the grave section at the back here, this is all grade 2 listed. And I imagine there's a few famous graves in here, but I'm not too sure. And even some of the villas around here, so this might be one of them, I'm not sure, but even some of the villas in this area have been built using a structure internally of the cast iron. So there's a lot of use of cast iron in this area because it was so close to the foundry, Mr. Cragg's foundry. Wow, that looks brilliant. So wait to see this. And it does look a bit rough in places, but considering there's a lot of cast iron used in it, it hasn't turned to dust like a lot of things made out of cast iron. And that stretching all the way down the back, that is fantastic. I tell you, this would be good in an old horror film or something or other. I think with a little bit of CGI action, you could make this look quite spooky on a dark night. With a bit of lightning coming down there and some sort of vampire-y monster-y person there, that would be ideal. That would be what I'd do if I was a film director, but I'm not. I'm a YouTuber who walks around getting his unmentionables sniffed by dogs. Right, so before the skip comes back again and ruins the whole video, I should leave you there. So thank you very much for watching. Please give the video a thumbs up, and I'm really close to getting to 1,000 subscribers now. I'm over 900 in the final furlong. So as soon as I get to the magic 1,000 and comfortably over it, I won't be asking you anymore to subscribe. So thank you very much again for tuning in to Scouse Farm, and I shall see you all again soon.